Good afternoon. This regular meeting of the Leon County Board of County Commissioners is called to order at 3:03 p.m. on July 13th, 2021. Today, we're honored to have with us the Reverend Dr. Lenny Marshall to provide the invocation. Commissioner Dozier, would you like to introduce the pastor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It is my honor to invite Reverend Dr. Lenny Marshall, pastor of St. Philip's AME Church, to join us for the invocation. And as he approaches, I also want to say that Pastor Marshall is Director of Diversity and Inclusion and Spiritual Care at Big Bend Hospice for the last 14 years, and we thank you for your service there, sir.
If you will, let us all please bow our heads in a word of prayer on this day. Eternal God, we come on this day. And Lord, we come on this day first thanking you for waking us all up this morning, starting us on our way. Realizing, Lord, that you didn't have to do it, but we're so glad you did. Because you did that, you invited us to this meeting today to discuss the business of your community. And Lord, we thank you for those who have been elected to speak on our behalf. We lift up today specifically Commissioner Osteen, Commissioner Long, Commissioner Minor, Commissioner Proctor, Commissioner Maddox, Commissioner Dozier, Commissioner Jackson, Commissioner Cummings, and Commissioner Welch. You have charged them, Lord, with a mighty task to navigate through the rough waters of a pandemic, to lead this county, Lord, in a safe and powerful place that we might be united in the work that all of us have been called to do. The work, Lord, of community. The work, Lord, of loving your neighbor as you love yourself. Lord, we thank you for the example that you have set for us. So, Lord, in this meeting today, I just ask for the presence of your Spirit in this place. Your Spirit, if it will dwell from seat to seat, will bring people together. Even in disagreements, Lord, we can still come together. We can still, Lord, share our thoughts, share our concerns about what it is that will make us a better community. We ask for your blessings in this meeting today. We know you're busy. We know you're seeing about many people right now. So, Lord, we lift up this county. We lift up this city. We lift up this state. We lift up these United States. That, Lord, whatever the people are going through right now, that we remember weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Thank you, Lord, for grace, mercy. Now in this meeting, have your way. Speak to these commissioners right now. Let them move in their spirit in making decisions. Let them be mindful that every decision they make today will affect the child that you're bringing to the earth right now and to the one that's leaving right now. Have your way, Jesus. We love you and we praise you and we give you all honor and grace. Now, Lord, I know you to be my Lord and I know you to be Jesus to me, but realizing that all of us have our strength in our spirit and we might refer to our strength in many other names. So, Lord, whatever gives us strength in this room today, whatever God the people call on, Lord, just have your way and bless us all. And when that time comes for us to leave, let us all be proud of the work that we've done. So, Lord, wherever we end up, Lord, we'll continue to give you the glory and praise, for we do love you and bless you. And I say this prayer in the many names that you have. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Marshall, for joining us today. Thank you, sir. Commissioner Dozier, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
Thank you, Commissioner Dozier. All right, Commissioners, we are now at awards and presentations. This afternoon, I have the great honor of presenting the Leon County Kona 2021 Neighborhood and Neighbor of the Year Award. I think we've got Lafayette Oaks, correct? Also joining me is someone who needs no introduction, Christique Henry from the Council of Neighborhood Associations. Christique? No? Okay. For the past 40 years, Kona has been a valuable partner in the county's awards program. That's 40 years of celebrating the accomplishments and successes of the many hardworking neighborhoods and neighbors we have right here in Leon County. Their contributions help make our county a great place to live. Today, we recognize this year's award winners who went above and beyond to help their neighbors and foster a safe, healthy, and resilient community during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, before we present the awards, Christique was going to say a few words about Kona, but we'll skip that part for now. Now for the main event. We're going ahead and present the awards. We'll be presenting 4 awards today. One is, the 4 awards are the Small, Large, and Unincorporated Neighborhoods of the Year and the Neighbor of the Year. This year's Small Neighborhood of the Year transitioned to digital methods of communication to provide residents with up-to-date information while keeping their most vulnerable neighbors safe. Congratulations, Callan Neighborhood Association. Let's give them a round of applause. This year's Large Neighborhood of the Year held food drives and delivered essentials to families in need. And they developed a reservation system so families could use the neighborhood's shared amenities while still following CDC guidelines. Congratulations, Lafayette Oak Homes Association. Oh, gotcha. Great. Oh, great, Callan. You want the commissioners? You want the rest of the commissioners here? Okay. Okay. This year's Unincorporated Neighborhood of the Year checked in on their most vulnerable neighbors to show they were not alone. And neighbors reached out to those needing help learning Zoom so everyone would have equal access to digital meetings. Congratulations, Walden Place Homeowners Association. Let's give them a round of applause. And finally, for Neighbor of the Year, I'd like to recognize Talithia O. Edwards. Talithia, as you all know, I think we all know her, is a proven leader in our community. During the last year, she served on the COVID-19 Minority Outreach Task Force. Talithia helped organize vaccination clinics and trained canvassers to encourage residents to get the vaccine. Congratulations, Talithia. Let's give her a hand. Thank you to all of this year's winners for everything you've done for our community. You help make our community better. So I really greatly appreciate that. And we also look forward to another exciting year for all of Leon County's neighborhoods. The county will be sharing the stories of your neighborhoods and Ms. Edwards throughout the month of July. Now, if the commissioners would like to join us, we'll take a photo with all the neighbors and the neighborhood winners. You want to come down? Yeah, you want to do it. Yeah, probably better. It's perfect. That'll work. Great. Yeah, it's great. Thank you all very much, and congratulations again. Mr. County Administrator, it's my understanding that Commissioner Welch is joining us virtually. Is that correct? Is he online right now?
That is true, and I believe we have Commissioner Proctor with us as well.
Okay, great. Welcome, Commissioner Welch and Vice Chair Proctor. Could I have a motion to accept their attendance virtually for the Board of County Commission? Motion's been made by Commissioner Maddox and seconded by Commissioner Dozier. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The motion passes unanimously 5-0 with Commissioner Welch and Vice Chair Proctor virtually. Welcome. Moving on to consent, my understanding is that we have a speaker here for consent item number 8. And normally we don't have speakers for consent items, but I want to go ahead and recognize this person to come up and speak. She is a member of the family for the street naming that's under consideration. So, Mr. County Administrator, would you please introduce the speaker?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item is item number 8, as you mentioned, the approval of rename Gamble Street to Robert and Trudy Perkins Lane. And the speaker is Jacqueline Perkins.
Okay. I think Deletria Hollinger is going to speak in Ms. Perkins' place. Is that correct, ma'am? Okay. Mr. Hollinger, thank you very much. Would you please come to the podium and provide your name and address for the record? You have 3 minutes, sir.
We both wanted to speak. I do have my speaker card. Well, good afternoon, commissioners. Great to see everyone. Deletria Hollinger, 501 Alpha Avenue. Is it possible for us to speak, Mr. Chairman, after consent is?
Mr. Hollinger, I'm sorry, we got a full agenda today. If you wouldn't mind speaking now and then Ms. Perkins as well.
Well, I wanted to thank the board for considering this item on what, if you pass it, will be a historic and monumental occasion for 2 individuals who changed the trajectory of our city and our county. They both were responsible for the desegregation and diversification of our city's workforce through the 1975 consent decree that was put into place. They were responsible for local school desegregation as well as providing recreational facilities for African Americans in our city in the 50s and the 60s as well. They are both graduates of Florida A&M University. 2 individuals who really changed our community, and I look forward to your vote on this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hollinger. Ms. Perkins, thank you very much for coming, ma'am. Would you please state your name and address for the record? And you have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jacqueline Perkins, 3437 Blue Jay Drive. And to the chairman and the board, I'd just like to thank you for considering this item. I wanted to thank the City Commission and especially Commissioner Diane Williams-Cox for her leadership and her efforts. I want to thank Deletria Hollinger, who has, through his research and his advocacy, has brought this matter to fruition. I thank the city staff as well, who helped us to navigate through this process. And I do want to say that as the daughter of Robert and Trudy Perkins, I've lost all of my siblings. I have one. He's not able to be here today because of physical incapacitation. And I'm here on behalf of the family to say thank you for your support and thank you for the consideration. My parents were doing what they did during the time when people didn't have such a nice name as social justice advocates. In fact, they were often criticized, ostracized, and vilified. They were never appreciated, celebrated, and certainly never elevated. And that hopefully will end today. Thank you for entering this information into the historic record, the work that they did tirelessly. I want to thank FAMU as well, Dr. Larry Robinson and Keith Miles, for the work, as well as city staff, Mr. Sechrist, who's here today, Steve Schaefer, and Ms. Marshall. So I'm not giving an Academy Award speech. I've had an array of emotions because my brother, who initiated this when he met Mr. Hollinger 3 years ago, 2 days ago was the anniversary of his death. And it's been a difficult time, and I've lost a number of family members unexpectedly. So we're here today, hopefully, to effect the name change, which I think is proper and fitting for two people who made the ultimate sacrifice and paid the price to make this city, to make this county, and to make the state of Florida better for all to live and to work and to enjoy life. So thank you again. And there's so much I'd like to say, but there'll be another venue, and that will be accomplished on another day. So thank you for considering renaming the street to Robert and Trudy Perkins Way. Didn't mean for that to rhyme, but thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Perkins. Appreciate it. And just a reminder to the commissioners, we did receive a revised Addendum 8 with a revised Option 1. So just want to remind everybody about that. Mr. County Administrator, are there any agenda items pulled from consent?
There are not.
All right, thank you, sir. Is there a motion to approve the agenda items from the consent agenda? Motion has been made by Commissioner Dozier and seconded by Commissioner Cummings. Thank you very much. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Okay, Commissioner Welch, I just want to confirm that is a vote in the affirmative, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, and Commissioner Vice Chair Proctor, are you there, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I show the vote as being unanimous, 7-0 in favor of a consent. Moving right on. Mr. County Administrator, we're now on citizens to be heard on non-agendaed items. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, we have one speaker under citizens to be heard on non-agendaed items, William Fouts.
Reverend Fouts, it's good to see you, sir.
Good evening.
Would you please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Yes, Reverend William Fouts, 6504 North Meridian Road. And I'm so proud and happy to be here. As I was telling the young man, well, he's back there. Since I've been here, and look at him. He way more than I weigh now, but he was a small man before.
He is
but
young.
I'm happy to be here. And what I'm here for today, I came at the right time. The oldest neighborhood in this county, Leon County, happened after slavery, happened to be my family. If you heard of Lake Jackson, Miller's Landing, the Rollins Point, they weathered the storm. These are great family. And then migrate all the way, who live in Oxbottom. You don't know half of your history, because my great-grandparents are buried in the mill of Oxbottom. There's a cemetery on Heartland Circle. This is history and facts. But I'm happy to be here tonight because to my big brothers and sisters, the county commissioner, I believe in doing right. And I come here tonight because I need help. My great-great-grandfather, Walker Rollins, Charlie Rollins, all of them, they worked hard after slavery to accumulate. The United States promised black African America after slavery 1 mule and 40 acres of property. They never received that. But my great-grandfather, Algie Rollins, I never forget it, a little boy. He said, if you ever come out on my property, it'd have a name, a nickname, Papa. He gave me that name. And he said he wanted us to hold on to this historical property, 150 years. And I'm at the mercy of our county. I have where the elder sister passed and the husband, which is not, he's the in-law. Somehow, one little lot of 12 acres of property is now in the uproar to be removed out of the Rollins. And I live all around it. The land belongs to the Rollins. If they was interested in selling, they should have came to us. I don't know the record. I'm asking our county. I shouldn't have to go out there and get an attorney to fight for me. That's why we elect you. Vince, I'm happy to be here. And I know you all will find out how this went about. One little lot connected to my property. I thank God for you, Commissioner. You have been over, and I'm asking you now, I need help.
Thank you, sir.
I need the property to stay.
Thank you, sir. I'm sorry the 3 minutes
Okay.
have expired, but Reverend Fouts, you and I can get together again, okay?
Yes, and I need you all of you to get together on this.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank
you
you
for
very
being here. Always good to see you. We're now to general business. Mr. County Administrator, would you please introduce the first item?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, I'm sorry. This item is for our county attorney. So I'll defer to the county attorney.
Madam County Attorney.
Thank you, Chairman. This is agenda item number 30, which is the status report on the open burning ordinance and information regarding open burning and air quality regulation, including emissions that may cause smoke nuisances, and request to schedule the first and only public hearing to consider adopting a proposed ordinance to repeal Section 18-142 of the Leon County Code of Laws and adopt new provisions related to open burning, scheduling that for September 14th of 2021. I believe we have one speaker on the item.
Thank you, Madam County Attorney. Mr. County Administrator, would you please introduce the first speaker?
We do. We have one speaker on this item, Linda Summerlin.
Ms. Summerlin, thank you for coming, please. Would you please state your name and address for the record? You have 3 minutes.
I feel strange on this side. It's Linda Summerlin, 2048 Falk Drive, Tallahassee, Florida, 32303. I just want to thank y'all, number one, for bringing an ordinance back on burning. Right now, it's under the Forestry Department, and the same rules for Gadsden County, Leon County as in Dade County and Broward County. And we really need a local ordinance back again. Not only do I thank you for doing that, I would like for you to, I urge you to put in there just a few more sentences that speak to no burning in a subdivision. And I'm just going to make up and say like an acre or less. If you, and where they have trash pickup, which is also very important. I've distributed you some information, which I've gone on a little bit over the subject, just to give you an idea of some of the things we've been experiencing in our neighborhood. I know if we experience it, other people are also. We have a gentleman who considers his burn barrel a recreational fireplace, and he gets to burn day and night, and he does quite a lot. People can enjoy their outside. I put in there, he's got a blower that blows it, which has nothing to do with anything but things that we're experiencing. But thank you. I urge you to send this to public hearing with including the words that I have talked about with the lot size, and if you have a waste company that picks up, you're not allowed to burn. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Summerlin. Mr. County Administrator, do we have any other speakers on this item?
We do not.
All right, thank you very much. Let me go ahead and start this off on the discussion of this. Many months ago, some citizens had contacted me and my chief of staff, Jody Wilkoff, about what I call nuisance burning, and it's what Ms. Summerlin described. This is not prescribed burning that is conducted by the likes of Tall Timbers. This is not in that category whatsoever. This is residential in one lot nuisance burning where you have a neighbor surrounded by other neighbors, but the neighbor is burning constantly, day after day after day. And we've had citizens come to us pleading for some type of action because they literally cannot enjoy their backyard because of the constant burning and the smoke being carried over by the wind into their property. So working with the county attorney, starting many months ago, we had, with the board's approval, we had dived into this, and the county attorney in her office did a tremendous job peeling away the layers of these twists and turns of who has authority on this. DEP, Forest Service, Ag, the county, and understanding to a tremendous level of detail exactly what the situation is. And it got more and more frustrating as we learned what little a county government in this state could do because of the preemption from the state by the legislature. So one thing I was hoping we could do, Madam County Attorney, if you wouldn't mind, not take too much time, but just summarize real briefly, what authority does Leon County have given the state preemption by Florida statutes?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In a nutshell, there's a provision in the statute under the Department of Ag's authority where it makes very clear that the Florida Forest Service, as part of the Department of Ag, has sole jurisdiction to regulate open burning in Florida absent a delegation of that authority to a county. That has not occurred. They could also delegate it to a city. It has not occurred for Leon County or for the city of Tallahassee. Even if Ag were to do so, any local plan that we would adopt would be nothing more than an enforcement and regulation of existing state standards. We would be precluded under that plan from implementing any standards that are more strict than already exist in rules that have been promulgated by the Department of Ag and by incorporation by reference to the Department of Environmental Protection related to burning. So that is not palatable as a means to address some of the complaints that have been received by some of the constituents who the chairman have talked with. Now, DEP, separately on the air quality side, has the authority to regulate air emissions in Florida. It's been delegated that authority by the feds. There's also a provision in Florida statute that authorizes DEP to further delegate its authority to regulate air emissions through local pollution control plans. There are 8 counties who historically have done so, none in recent memory. The 70s and the 80s is when those particular plans were approved by DEP. To some extent, they do regulate open burning under certain circumstances. Each of the plans is slightly different about that. Given that they were adopted prior to 2011, it's never been questioned or determined whether the provision that was added to the Department of Ag statute that gave sole discretion to regulate open burning to the Department of Ag, where that preempted those plans, or whether those are just grandfathered in, or to what extent DEP would approve a plan today to regulate that sort of activity in a local pollution control plan. That is potentially an option, but unknown at this time what that would entail.
Thank you, Madam County Attorney. You know, just one more comment, and then I know Commissioner Maddox is the next speaker, and then Commissioner Dozier. As far as people that have contacted our office in District 3, it's not a prevalent problem. We've probably had a handful of citizens who have come to us about this issue, but I'll tell you that the ones that have come to us, even though there were few in number, I'm convinced that the conditions are bad. And I mean, why can't someone that owns their home or rents their home sit in their backyard and enjoy their backyard? And clearly they cannot because of the incessant nuisance burning. So we've been trying to find some type of solution. And I'll go ahead and I'll let some of the other commissioners speak for a bit, and then I might have a suggestion at the end. But so we've got Commissioner Maddox and then Commissioner Dozier. Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madam Attorney, I need you to make it really plain for me. As I understand what you just said, what you're saying is that we can put this on the books, but it can't be stricter than what the state does. Is that correct?
That's through a plan approved by the Department of Agriculture. It is questionable whether we would be able to adopt any stricter standards related to air emissions if we were to request and receive approval from the Department of Environmental Protection for a local pollution control plan.
What would be, so let me rephrase it then. What you're saying is that we could put something stricter, but it would have to be approved.
It's a possibility.
Right.
That's all I know.
So
at this point.
we had to go through the process to get it approved. Now, enforcement-wise, are we precluded from enforcing even if we put something stricter on the books?
If it were approved by DEP, potentially no. Again, it's unknown whether the change in the Department of Agriculture statute in 2011 preempted DEP's ability to approve plans in that particular area. I don't know.
So as we sit right now, it's exploratory in nature.
That's a good characterization.
And you would do all this research prior to the first public hearing. You would have the answers to these questions that I'm asking you.
If given direction by the board, I would work with staff to talk with DEP to try to figure out whether a possible plan that would be approved by DEP operationally, administratively, and practically would address the sorts of concerns that have been raised by the constituents.
All right. So, Mr. Chair, I want those questions answered before we move forward with scheduling a public hearing. I'll make a motion that we postpone action on this agenda item with the county attorney having those questions answered in the information that comes back, and also staff evaluating the request by Ms. Summerlin, what that would actually do to what we're trying to do there too as well. So if we could postpone action until we get those questions answered, I'd appreciate that.
I would second that motion.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Madam County Attorney.
request for clarification. Would you also be requesting that we bring back to you any of the fiscal impacts associated with such enforcement? Because there would be
Yes, ma'am.
that as well.
Please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, motion's been made by Commissioner Maddox and seconded by myself. Commissioner Maddox, are you finished with the comments, sir? Okay. Commissioner Dozier, and then Commissioner Jackson, and Commissioner Cummings. Commissioner Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wholeheartedly support the motion on the floor. I think some additional information would be helpful. For myself, I will say this issue has come up several times, particularly since Hurricane Hermine. And the analysis we have in this item took it a step further in really understanding the DEP and Department of Ag and their role in the state. So I appreciate that, Madam County Attorney, for you and your staff presenting this, because when we get calls similar to the questions that you asked, or Mr. Chair, we've wondered how to help residents and who to direct them to. And it was significant to me in my briefing that I think you used the phrase, and sorry for quoting you here, that when the fire department responds, it's really a courtesy. And they're coming out to make sure there's safety, there's no safety concerns or anything like that, but they don't have enforcement authority to control this because of what you've already articulated. So that, and oftentimes our constituents will call the Sheriff's Department or Tallahassee Fire in response to this. So this was very helpful. I think some clarity for all of our residents and for us to know who to direct them to if that should be Department of Ag or someone else. You may have spoken to this a moment ago, but I just want to clarify. We have had citizens reference ordinances in other local jurisdictions, counties or cities. And it seems like some counties and cities have put ordinance on their books that may not have been vetted by FDACS. They may not have gone through this rigorous process. We have the benefit of asking these questions before we get into the ordinance process. And to me, that's really the appropriate first step. Did I say that accurately, Madam Attorney?
Madam County Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, Commissioner Dozier, I think it's been kind of a hodgepodge of things. 8 of the counties, as I previously mentioned, were authorized through their plans through DEP to regulate the activity. Some of those local regulations also probably predate 2011 when the law changed. And some of them may have been done since 2011 without an understanding of what authority there was and what there wasn't at the local level.
Okay. Thank you for that clarity as well. There was only one other issue, Mr. Chair, that I thought I would bring back up here. We did discuss it several years ago, just after Hurricane Hermine. And if the maker of the motion is amenable, I would love some information to come back about this in the agenda item. And that would be burning ban associated with and I'm going to get my language here. We're going to take this up later, but emergency declaration. Is that correct? Yes. Not the order, the declaration in response to a hurricane. The situation, some of you may remember with Hurricane Hermine, folks were out of power for a long time, and we had people, and it was relatively cold. Or am I mixing that up with Michael? I'll leave it aside. With your windows open, you have no power, you have AC, your neighbor is burning to keep warm, and there were people with health challenges that were getting a lot of smoke in their house. It is similar to the concerns we hear from residents on a day-to-day basis, but if I understood our discussion during briefing, Madam County Attorney, we may be able to look at a provision within an emergency declaration to ban burning in a special circumstance like that when the power is out for an extended period of time. I'm not sure if that's something we would want to do in the future, but is that a question that we could answer within this agenda item? Mr. Chair?
Madam County Attorney.
That's definitely something that we could research and also bring back and provide more information to the board about.
Would that be? Thank you. Thank you very much, Commissioner Maddox. Okay, that's it. I really appreciate the item. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Dozier. We've got Commissioner Jackson and then Commissioner Cummings. Commissioner Jackson.
Yeah, excuse me. It's good to see you, Ms. Summerlin. Good to have you here back in your old stomping grounds, so to speak. But thank you for coming out tonight. I understand exactly what we're talking about, but the more I think about your motion, Commissioner Maddox, as we're calculating the fiscal impact on this, I don't think it just stops at an enforcement board or code enforcement officers. If they have problems on the weekend, are we going to respond at midnight to burning fires in that particular community? What is their authority? There's going to be a court cost, I'm assuming, that we will incur to have this sort of enforcement. And is there a punishable? I'm wondering, do the other counties that do have this sort of thing, do they have a system where they fine folks? Or I'm just trying to understand that because it seems nearly impossible to enforce.
Madam County Attorney.
Particularly in emergency situations, weekends, middle of the night or whatever.
Madam County Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Jackson, that's definitely something that when I talked about having to investigate and review what the construct of a regulation would look like, enforcement and the practicalities and the operational issues associated with that, that's definitely one of those things we would take a look at.
Right, because I don't envision us contacting, a call being made to our consolidated dispatch center, and then we would make a decision on whether to send the sheriff's office or the police or the fire department or two gentlemen or two young ladies in a subcompact car out there to issue a ticket at 2 a.m. to someone that's burning and nuisance burning. So I can just see that, gosh, there'll be a lot of different scenarios that can play out, in particular because of the size of Leon County, not the people so much as the sheer volume and acreage, not in Tallahassee proper. So, it will be interesting to see what other municipalities and counties are doing. So I'll look forward to that.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Cummings.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I just have a question probably along the same lines as Commissioner Jackson. I certainly support Commissioner Maddox motion about gathering additional information, but my question is, do we need to look at, or should there be a distinction between county incorporated areas and unincorporated areas as far as burning ordinance or regulations?
Madam County Attorney.
So basically, if the county adopts an ordinance, it is effective in the entire county, including the incorporated areas, unless the city adopts an ordinance that basically is different and preempts the county's ordinance within the municipal boundaries. The city actually is going to be considering not the smoke emissions portion of this, but the burning, issue of burning at their September meeting anyway. They were in the process of updating their ordinance to be consistent with our existing ordinance when there was, after investigation, a realization that our ordinance is not actually correct. It makes it seem like we've delegated authority to regulate burning to the state, when in fact, we don't have that authority to delegate. So the city is also going to be considering the regulation of burning issue. They're receiving their own counsel from the city attorney on this issue. I won't speak for her, although we have had numerous conversations, and she's issued an opinion that's consistent with what you have in your agenda materials today. We could look at, if the board wanted to limit enforcement to the unincorporated areas, what that might look like, if that's the direction of the board.
Mr. Chairperson, if I can just follow up, would we get into a conflicting situation, however, if we are looking at an ordinance that governs the incorporated county area, and then the city has something that's conflicting? Would we, as part of Commissioner Maddox's motion to gather more information, would it be incumbent upon us to look at where there might be consistencies with the city and make sure what we adopt is consistent with what they have?
Madam County Attorney.
So that we won't have mixed, messages to the citizenry.
Sure. So the city will be considering the issue related to open burning at its, I think September 8th is the next time the city meets. So this burning issue is on that city's agenda, September 8th. So we will know as of September 8th what the city's position is related to open burning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Cummings. Commissioners Welch and Vice Chair Proctor, do you wish to make any comments on agenda item number 30?
Hey, Mr. Chairman, I'm fine.
Okay. Vice Chair Proctor, any comments, sir?
No, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. The motion on the floor, made by Commissioner Maddox and seconded by myself. All those in favor of the motion as stated, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
All right, Commissioner Welch, I'll read that as a vote in the affirmative. Vice Chair Proctor, is that a yes, sir?
Correct.
Okay, the motion's unanimous, 7-0. Thank you very much. Mr. County Administrator, would you please introduce the next item?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Item number 31 provides a status update on the county's emergency declaration and related procedures for county commission meetings that the board has adopted while under the declared local state of emergency due to COVID-19. At this time, Commissioners, this item recommends allowing the continuing proclamation declaring a local state of emergency to expire on July 16th, 2021, and returning to pre-pandemic meeting procedures. With that, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, we have several speaker cards in, and of course, we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much, Mr. County Administrator. Would you please introduce the first speaker?
The first speaker is a Zoom speaker, is Jeff Blair.
Mr. Blair, thank you for joining us today. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Excuse me, Commissioner Meyer, just give me a second. I have to get the screen shifted. Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, sir, we are. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, sorry, so I'm Jeff Blair, 1803 Old Fort Drive. Good morning, Commissioner, or good afternoon, I should say. Keep It Rural and Woodland Drive Neighborhood Association are requesting that you not vote for option 1 and 2, which would default to the previous COVID status, and instead approve option 3 and direct staff to prepare an analysis of ways to expand citizen involvement at and before board meetings on policy issues, including, which is the main thing I'm speaking about today, codifying a mechanism and procedure for providing real-time input virtually during the scheduled public comment opportunities provided during the board meetings. Exemplified in the overall goal of the county strategic plan of enhancing public involvement and consistent with the Commission's policy on citizen input, which states the board recognizes the importance of protecting the right of all citizens to express their options and encourages citizen participation in the local government process. The Commission should proactively take every step to ensure that it is safe for citizens to participate, including the option for real-time virtual input at all Commission meetings going forward. It is difficult for many citizens to take time from work and family obligations to drive and park downtown when we have viable options to allow for meaningful citizen participation via internet-based technologies. I note that today there's 2 commissioners who are participating virtually. I think that's good, and it's a good thing to have. The disruption caused by the COVID-19 pandemic provides an opportunity to enhance the public participation procedures in the Commission's meetings, workshops, and public hearings. Our laws and policies predate the internet era and do not take into account modern tools for public engagement. This should be rectified by codifying procedures for real-time virtual public comment during all Commission meetings. In an effort to enhance the public's ability to participate in local government decision-making, it only makes sense to put in place clear, accessible, and transparent procedures for public participation, including providing a mechanism for real-time virtual input during meetings that is easily accessible and broadly communicated to the public. Your constituents, many more beyond the 2 that I referenced in my opening, are asking that you amend the relevant Board of County Commission policies and procedures to expand public participation opportunities, including a mechanism and procedure for providing real-time input virtually during all Commission scheduled public comment opportunities going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Blair. Mr. County Administrator, would you please introduce the next speaker?
The next speaker is Danielle Irwin.
Ms. Irwin, thank you for joining us today. Would you please state your name and address for the record? You have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Danielle Irwin, 3185 Ferns Glen Drive. I speak to you today on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Tallahassee. I'm a board member and the chair of their local government committee, and we really raise up public participation and civic engagement at commission meetings, at the local level, at the state level, and so this is very important to us. That said, I also am a professional in the world of coastal resiliency. And in resiliency, we don't bounce back, we bounce forward. We try and be better prepared in the future. And so on behalf of the League and also as good governance recommendation, I implore you to choose option 3 and give staff direction to have them bring back options for virtual civic engagement in all commission meetings. Have us bounce forward with this new knowledge of the communication media technology that our staff has learned. We have offered this to the public already for a year, and to take it away now is going to put at a disadvantage people that are still not comfortable coming here, ones with impaired immune systems, elderly, ones that don't have easy access to get off work, like I apparently do this afternoon. So these are things that I hope that you direct staff to bring back. I would also like to mention that I also am on the board of the statewide League of Women Voters of Florida, and I want to thank you for your resolution that you adopted today under consent agenda item number 4. Thank you very much for that, and I'll draw your attention because it relates to item number 31 to one whereas clause in the resolution you just adopted. Whereas Leon County supports measures to promote civic engagement and to ensure that all citizens have the unrestricted ability to exercise their right to vote. So I encourage you to direct your staff under option 3 to explore opportunities to give them unrestricted ability to virtually participate in all commission meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Irwin. Thank you for coming. Mr. County Administrator, would you please introduce the next speaker?
Yes, the final speaker card that we have on this item is Carrie Litherland.
Hello, Ms. Litherland. Thank you for coming. Would you please state your name and address for the record? You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman and County Commissioners. My name is Carrie Litherland, 1336 Jackson Street, 32303. And today I am speaking on behalf of Alliance of Tallahassee Neighborhoods on agenda item 31 to recommend that the board approve a new option 3 and direct staff to prepare an analysis of ways to expand citizen involvement at or before board meetings on policy issues. We find that the agenda item fails to address opportunities to enhance citizen involvement in board decision making by simply defaulting to the pre-COVID status. The agenda item does not evaluate the staff's recommendation options in light of the county's overall goals of enhancing public involvement, which were clearly laid out in the strategic plan. The strategic plan contains the following guidance, making clear that the county seeks to, and I quote, create meaningful opportunities for citizen engagement and co-creation to sustain a culture of transparency and accessibility, and to sustain a culture that respects, engages, and empowers citizens in important decisions facing this community. We cannot find how the staff recommendations support these goals. Our specific concerns with the agenda item are threefold. First, the agenda item states that there are multiple ways in which citizens can comment. Real-time comments are materially different than emails. Discussion at meetings can affect what a citizen wishes to say. Citizens may submit written comments for the record, but given the sheer length of meeting agendas, often over 1,000 pages like this one, they may also wish to speak to ensure their comments are heard. And while I know you all do your very best to read every single thing that comes your way and be the most informed you can, this is honestly must be an insurmountable task at times. Second, the agenda item states that there is a declining use of the virtual options by citizens. This may be due in part to the nature of the agenda items themselves. There were substantial virtual comments on Lilani Boulevard, for example. Regardless of the percent of comments that are made virtually, limiting opportunities based on that percent runs counter to the strategic plan goals. Further, there are many times that there are no in-person comments on agenda items, but we do not use that as justification to eliminate the possibility of in-person comments here in chambers. Third, staff notes that staff time is needed for virtual comment, but again, it's not clear how this is balanced against the strategic plan and goals. Additionally, I would like to say that we too do not wish to join a WebEx meeting or any virtual platform 2 hours prior to an actual meeting time. And we are certain that with the staff that we have here, better solutions to minimize the waste of both staff and citizen times can be found. While noting these concerns within the agenda item, it is not our intent to further lengthen commission meetings. Technology provides many opportunities for public involvement that may ultimately reduce the number of citizens choosing to speak at actual public hearings. This may include the use of Zoom workshops with staff and citizens, and staff releasing draft policy documents on upcoming agenda items. All of this shows the need for an agenda item to come back to you all after staff prepares an analysis of ways to expand citizen involvement at or before a board meeting on policy issues, including but not limited to virtual participation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Litherland. Appreciate it. Mr. County Administrator, are there any more speakers?
That was your final speaker card.
Great. Thank you very much, sir. In the speaker's queue, I've got Commissioner Dozier and then Vice Chair Proctor. Mr. Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate those who spoke today and several emails that we've gotten. I know folks are advocating for option 3 and not option 1 and 2. I will be making a motion at the end of my comments, and I would like to accept option 1 and 2, but modify the virtual comment piece, pull that out of option 2. So I think the rest of the emergency declaration, it may be time to adjust our procedures in line with other steps we've taken, but I am going to speak specifically to the virtual comments. I think there have been some compelling comments made today. I particularly want to compliment Danielle Irwin for quoting us back to ourselves. That was a very good step. And I am very thankful for your work and the rest of the league on behalf of voting rights in Florida. So thank you for that. Really proud that we've gotten both those resolutions passed. I think this government, this board, has been absolutely committed to citizen engagement in a lot of different ways, created a lot of different venues and ways to participate, not just during the pandemic, but for years and years. I recognize that the virtual comments have added staff time. That is true. As we develop an IT department, as technology grows, I think, Mr. County Administrator, you'd probably agree, our budget has increased because technology and the way we engage has expanded over the years and decades. So I'm not as concerned about adding some staff time for a new method of public engagement. The cost is an issue, and I think we could reflect on what boards, our board, and for my part, perhaps Planning Council or others may be a good fit for virtual comments, but perhaps not all of our committees. But I'm going to reserve judgment on that. In addition to the comments that have already been made, just increasing access for those who may work in the afternoon, who may be concerned about ongoing conditions with the pandemic. I have also heard in the last year how valuable virtual comments have been for those who are older and may not be able to travel down to the courthouse or have other disability issues. Yes, I'm remembering we still have our 3-minute time limit until we pass this vote, right? Or perhaps another meeting. So I will wrap this up, or I may ask for a little more time, but this is increasing accessibility for our citizens. We want to hear from them. There is nothing quite like speaking to your elected representatives in person, even if they can set up meetings with us, even if they can send us emails. I also want to finally note, I know that red card's coming up, Mr. Chair, that the online comments, the emails we get in the evening, and the second batch came in at 1:21 today. I reviewed it. It's 9, or so pages. But if there's more, it's hard to read that before the meeting. That will be going away, so we won't have that document with the online public comments. People will email us as they used to. So what I'd like to do is make a motion for option 1 and 2, and with the addition that we bring back an agenda item in September. We preserve virtual comments for our first meeting in September, as is, awaiting an agenda item that explores the costs and the scope of virtual comments. If we can reduce staff time by not having citizens wait online for a few hours, I know there's some security issues, other things like that. I think staff, could unpack this for us, and we could make a more strategic decision about virtual comments and increasing our access for our citizens at the September meeting. So, Mr. Chair, that's the motion, option 1, 2, and bring back an agenda item in September to unpack the virtual comments and keep them as a standard policy for this board.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Dozier. Is there a second on the motion? I will second the motion.
I'll second that.
It sounds like Commissioner Welch will second the motion. All right. Thank you, Commissioner Dozier. I've got Vice Chair Proctor and then Commissioner Welch, and then I'll speak after that. Vice Chair Proctor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, thank you for your patience, and I pray that I'm being heard distinctly. I think that Commissioner Dozier is well spoken, and we can return to pre-pandemic. There are a couple of things that are in mind. Number one, we've asked a lot of our staff. They've taken on CARES Act distribution dollars. We've done bailout for businesses. We've done bailout for nonprofits. We've placed and made them the Leon County Treasury Department, a subsidiary of the United States Treasury. All of those things, just economic stuff that was not on their plate. They also hit new technological highs and integrating a public, which by necessity and public policy forced our separation. Our building was not accessible even to county commissioners. And in order to carry out the people's business, we initially were forced ourselves to meet by way of virtue. Our buildings have reopened, our commission chambers have, and so the flow of government and its openness is back to norm. It's interesting that, commissioners, that what we have here in returning to the pre-pandemic, that our staff is still continuing to deal with new altitudes of service delivery in response to COVID, and making and have made adjustments across a broad waterfront of various things that they have reacclimated and set new standards. And I believe that with what Commissioner Dozier has indicated, our constituents still phone us, our constituents still can email us, our constituents still can come down to the chamber, and all of those things, those accesses. It should not be understood that what we're doing in any way is akin to voter suppression. We're not denying ballots. We're not raising the bar on identification. We're in no way frustrating the public's access to vote, nor are we frustrating the public's access. I think another dimension of this is that we've been fortunate to not to have experienced a whole lot of unruly comments, which oftentimes people, when they have anonymity, can sit in the dark and sit behind a wall of anonymity and just say anything. There have been a couple of times when, if I had been chair, I would have asked to cut a couple of people off because the tone, the tenor. And usually people, when they show up in person, there's a little bit more regard. And that's not a dynamic that we run from. It's just that we don't have the delay factor that radio often operates with, a 5 to 7 to 8 second in your call in, and they get the chance to bleep out, mute out, or those things for calls that have the wrong words. We don't have that. We're live. We're just like bam, bam. And we're still a very, very effective body, even prior to, and I don't think in any way, the bottom line is we do not disrupt our efficiencies, and we do not cause a stalemate in the efficiencies of our hearing from the public and delivering the services and the empathy as well as our consideration of the input.
Vice Chair Proctor, sir, I'm sorry, but you're over the 3-minute time limit. If you could please wrap it up in the next sentence.
I yield the floor, sir.
All right, thanks so much, Vice Chair Proctor, for your understanding. I appreciate it. I've got Commissioner Welch and then Commissioner Cummings. Commissioner Welch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
Thank you. I appreciate Commissioner Dozier's motion. My sentiment on public participation is anytime we can expand it, that is a good thing. Obviously, my tenure on the county commission has not seen the normal way of doing things. And so from my perspective, I think that our virtual comment ability has been a really nice practice. I think anytime that we can expand access to folks, that's a good thing. And if every county in the state's not doing that, I'd like to see us be a leader in expanding access to folks to be able to speak or address our board. I know a lot of people in the county don't have the ability to get down to the courthouse at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I being one of them, prior to being elected. So I think that I would support being able to permanently allow for virtual comment. I don't think there's been too many issues that have created a situation where it was unmanageable. And I know that our staff is super capable and can figure out a way to make it work. And that's why I think we could be a leader in the state for doing that, because our staff is a leader in the state. they are innovative and they do really function in excellence. So I will support Commissioner Dozier's motion, and I will look forward to, hopefully, with everyone else's support, perhaps creating a policy going forward that just permanently expands virtual comment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Welch. Commissioner Cummings, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I recognize that we are all public servants, and in that respect, we need to hear from the citizens. And I appreciate the fact that during this pandemic, staff has made it possible so that we haven't inhibited anybody from speaking to us that desire to. One of the major problems that I've had with the virtual speakers is that many times they're truncated, many times they're, it's not clear. So I think best practice and preference would be for individuals to come in person. We can see you, we understand you, and I think the positions are much clearer when you are here in person. And I think we find that individuals that are dedicated to certain issues or positions, they show up here. Even during the height of the pandemic, they showed up with their mask on, and we had our masks on as well. But having said that, I don't have a problem with staff looking at what can be done to implement procedures that would allow citizens that aren't able to come to the meeting to participate virtually or in some other forum. So I believe as commissioners, we really need to be informed in that respect. I think the way we are operating now was because of the emergency, out of necessity. But if we're looking at something long range, as far as accessibility is concerned, as far as allowing citizens to be heard in a different format, in a different platform, we need to be informed. I think citizens need to be informed that possibly fiscal impact and maybe other impacts as well. So I would support Commissioner Dozier's motion to send it back to staff and have them bring an agenda item back to us later on in the fall.
Great. Thank you very much, Commissioner Cummings. I've got Commissioner Jackson, and then I'll wrap it up. Commissioner Jackson.
Quick question for the county administrator. Did we hire any additional staff to pull off the virtual meeting environment and all of the time invested and the software accommodations? Did we hire additional staff to do that?
We did not.
So did we pass that job on to people that were already in TIS services?
We did.
So in addition to their daily duties, they now are basically, we're presenting two different formats in nearly every meeting.
Correct.
Right. Like Commissioner Proctor, I am often available, and anytime someone emails us, when I say we, I'm speaking of myself and my aide, we always respond, and we always either arrange a telephone meeting or in many cases, virtual meeting with the constituent. I'll be interested to see what comes back, and I would like to know if there's a fiscal impact and the man hours involved in creating and setting these things up ahead of time. I can remember very vividly early on, Michelle and her staff having lots of work and lots of things not going right, which is typical of something that's brand new like that comes to you. But now that we have the ability to return to pre-pandemic meetings, in addition, I wanted to include Mary provides us citizen comments right up until an hour and a half before this meeting takes place. We are still provided digital comments and email comments that come to us through the website. So, yeah, I'll be very interested in seeing what comes back to us. But again, we're talking about a fiscal impact, and we're talking about adding a workload to folks that are already, in my opinion, they're running the daily TIS duties that happen around any sort of organization. So that's where I'm at.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. I've got Commissioner Maddox, and then I will wrap up after that. Commissioner Maddox.
Mr. Chair, briefly, I'll support the motion on the floor, but like Commissioner Jackson, Commissioner Proctor, there's a reason that we all wanted to get back in this chambers to see each other. For that same reason, I would love for folks who want to speak to us to get back in the chamber so I can see them as well. But I do understand the other side of the equation, where there could be some health issues and things like that that could prevent folks from being able to do that. So I'm interested in seeing what comes back to us when it comes to the cost of actually trying to continue doing the virtual comment. As Commissioner Jackson said, we do get those emails. So there are ways that people can contact us if they wanted to speak to us on a specific item. And in those emails, I think if they actually came and spoke, it would be more than 3 minutes. But we read them all and we get through them all. But I do like the aspect of being able to see someone ex electron, speak their mind, speak their piece, and engage with us in person. Commissioner Proctor said it as well. I think too, there's a sense of decorum when you are speaking amongst friends physically versus when you're sitting in your living room or at your desk virtually and having the same conversation. You can kind of look out over the folks that are here and get a sense of how they're feeling about what you're saying, as well as the commissioners that are here as well. So I'm interested to see what comes back. I'll support the motion on the floor. I really would like for us to get to a place, barring someone having a physical ailment where they can't actually get here, that we get to actually see people physically at the lecture and speak to us. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Maddox. And just a couple of summary points for me, and then we'll move on to the vote. I support Commissioner Dozier's motion. I'm glad she made it. I've thought about this, as you all have. When we ran for office, I'm sure you heard the same things that I did, which was people repeatedly telling us, we want to be heard. We want the opportunity to meet with you and talk with you and speak our mind on positions. And as Commissioner Jackson said, there are many opportunities for people to do that one-on-one. We meet with constituents all the time. But I do believe this is the right direction to take, for us to take a look at how we can maintain the virtual citizen comments portion of this. I think it served us very well during the pandemic. We know the technology is there, and I'd like to look for ways to maintain that. Just one quick thing on the online comment forms. I thought about that as well, but I think it makes sense for us to go back to the standard emails. Functionally, it's the same. Citizens can still reach out to us on any issue that they see on an agenda item or not, and then email us. And I'm looking forward to it going back to the simple, straight emails to us, because those emails that you send to us come to us immediately. I see it as soon as you hit send. With the current version, you do have both options. You can actually email us directly like you always could, and we get that email immediately, or you can go to the online comment form and basically have a comment for that agenda item. When you do it that way, though, we don't see that except in batch. We set it once the night before, around 8 p.m., and then around noon, it depends, but around noon the next day in batches. It's personal preference, but I like to see the emails come in immediately as opposed to a batch of 100 or 200, depending on the issue. So I'm happy with that, reverting back to the old way, which functionally is exactly the same. You still have the opportunity to comment on any agenda item or anything that's not on the agenda, to us individually or to all of us at once. So Commissioner Dozier, I support the motion. I'm glad you made it. It looks like we're going to have a majority vote on it, if not unanimous. With that, seeing no other speakers, all those in favor of the motion as stated by Commissioner Dozier. Does anyone need us to restate the motion? Okay. A motion made by Commissioner Dozier and seconded by Commissioner Welch. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Aye. Okay, Commissioner Welch, that's a yes, I hear. Vice Chair Proctor, is that a yes from you too, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right, so the motion passes unanimously, 7-0. Thank you all very much. Mr. County Administrator, would you please introduce the next item?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, as directed by the board at the May 11th meeting, this item provides an analysis of street renaming options to honor former President Barack Obama. Should the board wish to effectuate such a renaming, this item recommends proceeding with the renaming of East Pensacola Street from South Monroe Street to Franklin Boulevard to Obama Street. With that, Commissioners, you have several speakers on this item, and of course, we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. County Administrator. Would you please introduce the first speaker?
Yes. The first speaker is Robert Nahum.
Mr. Nahum, thank you very much for coming today. Would you please state your name and address for the record? And you have 3 minutes.
My name is Robert Nahum, 576 East Call Street. So I'm here today to comment on the possible renaming of East Pensacola Street to Obama Street, or another similar name, whatever you guys decide after President Obama. And I want to speak to you all about why I don't believe that this is something that should be done, and why I believe that it will really serve no good for the purpose of the community, or in our community. So that section of Pensacola Street that you all are voting to rename, it's been named Pensacola Street. The decision to make Tallahassee the central meeting spot for the legislature is ultimately what led to Tallahassee becoming the capital. The street was named Pensacola Street for a good reason, and the name has meaning and is part of our town's history. Primarily, I'm not against the renaming of the street because it's being named after former President Obama. I would be against renaming the street even if it was being named after Calvin Coolidge, Ronald Reagan, or even former President Donald Trump. We need to preserve our history here in Tallahassee, especially in Tallahassee's historical downtown area. And as a fourth-generation Tallahassean, this is important to me. I would advocate against renaming any of the streets in Tallahassee's downtown. Also, whether you like former President Obama and his policies or you don't, you have to recognize that naming this street after former President Obama will upset many of our residents here in Tallahassee. We are living in very divided times. Many residents here do not believe that President Obama was a good president, and they don't believe he implemented good policies during his presidency. If you go online and look at the comments on the local news station social media page that ran the article on a few days ago, you'll see that most of the comments are against this move. It's an unnecessary move. It will just bring on more division. And at this time, these are divided times, at this time, I think it would be wise for you guys to just focus on things that unite our community and make our community better, and not focus on things that are unnecessary, partisan, and will only serve to divide. With that said, I'm against the renaming of Pensacola Street to Obama Street.
Thank you, Mr. Nahum. Thank you very much. Mr. County Administrator, next speaker, please.
The next speaker is Deletri Hollinger.
Mr. Hollinger, thank you. Would you please come up to the podium when you and state your name and address for the record? And you have 3 minutes.
Deletri Hollinger, 501 Alpha Avenue, very proudly a resident of District 1. I'm here to speak against the renaming of East Pensacola Street in honor of President Obama, but not because of who he is, but because of where the street is. East Pensacola Street, at least the segment that is proposed to be renamed, is a 2-block, hilly, insignificant street sandwiched between state government buildings. It is not significant. Even driving here to the courthouse today, I noticed that the street sign is covered by limbs and tree leaves, so you can't even see it right outside the courthouse. I'm here to advocate for Spring Hill Road to be named for President Obama for a variety of reasons. On December 11, 2018, during my time as president of the NAACP, myself and many of our board members came to also support Spring Hill Road as the designated option. Spring Hill Road is located in District 1. It connects to Capitol Circle Southwest. There will soon be a lot of upgrades to Spring Hill Road. It is going to be a part of our airport gateway project. There will be many trails, sidewalks, improvements added to that street. There's development that's coming to that street. The street is right down from NIMS Middle School. It's right down from the other school, Pineview Elementary School. So the youth of our community, and anytime I work on any project, no matter what it is, I'm always thinking about the young people and what they will be seeing. And so with this being right down the street from two of our District 1 schools, this being in District 1, my dearly departed godmother, Anita Davis's park, is located along this street. This street connects to Orange Avenue, which is dedicated in the memory of the Reverend C.K. Steele. Many of those who are coming into Tallahassee from Capitol Circle Southwest from the airport take this street into our city. It is the most prominent option. And also, I ask the commission not to name, whatever option you make today, please don't name the street Obama Street. Please name it President Barack Obama Way, whatever street it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hollinger. Mr. County Administrator, would you please introduce the next speaker?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, that concludes your speakers on this item.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioners, I've got Commissioner Maddox in the speaker's queue. Commissioner Maddox.
I'm going to yield to Commissioner Proctor because I think he brought it to us. But I did want to say briefly, I do agree with Mr. Hollinger's assessment of naming it the President Obama Way versus Obama Street. I don't know if that's something that we could definitely change, but if there's a motion made today, that would be my preference that we go with that naming. As far as Pensacola Street and street naming, like I said, I'll defer to Commissioner Proctor on that. There is some history there. I understand the history there. I understand there's going to be some upset folks if we move in this direction. But let's be honest, if we have people advocating for Donald Trump Way, there'd be some upset folks on that direction too. I think you just have to really think about what you want to do in this situation and make a decision on it. So, Mr. Chair, those are my comments until I hear from Commissioner Proctor. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Maddox. Vice Chair Proctor, would you like to make a comment, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, we adore President Barack Obama, and we do believe his name is fitting to grace a street in the capital of Florida. Not only did he run and win twice, but he also won our community. Twice he won Leon County, and twice he won in the state of Florida. Those are historic markers with respect to people's regard for that president. However, we also know that President Obama is a man of humility and very humble. He would never, in my opinion, think himself worthy to be preemptive of the significant history of the word, the title Pensacola. I don't know if Pensacola denotes a people or exactly what it stands for, but Apalachicola, Wakulla, all of these Native American words surrounding our environment. And I think that there is another appropriate street that would not negate history itself. So the public speaker was very compelling, and I think that there's another road of which Commissioner Obama. The Perkins Street naming today supplants a slaveholder, one who owned a plantation, Florida A&M University campus. So Gamble is not is a good riddance, and I went to school from 1st through 12th grade on Gamble Street, and I'm glad that we changed that. But Pensacola is not such a term that we ought to negate it in all of its splendid meaning over time. So, Commissioners, I would, not seeing the item in front of me right now, but I would ask that we would pause and choose another roadway to certainly to hail the significance as well as the endearing qualities of President Obama for another day.
Commissioner Proctor, is that a motion?
That would be my recommendation.
Vice Chair Proctor, would you please restate that? I didn't quite hear everything.
My recommendation would be that we pass on this opportunity to negate the word Pensacola from the lexicon of Leon County. It deserves to remain, and let us continue to look toward other roadways and chances to place that great and significant name Obama. But let us not do that to the word Pensacola.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that motion with the caveat that when we do find a road waiver, it comes back as President Obama Way versus President Obama Street.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Oh, so just to clarify, so Vice Chair Proctor, are you making the motion? Because Commissioner Maddox would second that if you made that motion, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'll frame that as a motion. Yes, sir.
Okay, just to clarify. All right, thank you. Commissioner Maddox, any other comments at this point?
No, I wholeheartedly, I wanted Commissioner Proctor to take the lead on that, but I do agree with his assessment that we postpone and bring back other options for President Obama Way, and look forward to seeing what staff has come back. Thank you.
And just to get clarification for county staff, so the motion is to bring the agenda item back with street options and then rename, basically with the name President Obama Way. Is that correct, Vice Chair Proctor?
Yes, sir. Or President Obama Avenue Lane, but President Obama in whatever lane, drive, or whatever we call it.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much. I just want to make sure we're all very clear on the motion stated. Thank you. I've got in the speaker's queue Commissioner Dozier, Jackson, and then Cummings. Commissioner Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Like our discussion, I believe it was 2018, this is a challenging issue. I mean, there are people who think the road isn't significant enough, that there is history attached to it, and then there are some folks, and we shouldn't be surprised by this, who see this through a partisan lens. So a couple comments before I get to the motion on the table. First, I thought about this a lot in 2018. We don't name roads after every single president. And regardless of what our party affiliation might be or who we support or who we don't on certain issues, I really thought about the significance of why President Obama in particular made it be deserving of this recognition. And it's pretty obvious to me. We have never had a president who looked like President Obama. It was a sea change for this nation. If this was the first woman president, I would support it exactly the same, whether she was Republican or Democrat. If President Obama had been a Republican, I would support it. I think that is the significance from my perspective. And I wanted to mention that because while I was a supporter, I try to draw back and look at it kind of for our whole community. So that's my comment to those who think this is a partisan issue, because this is a unique one. Secondly, I think the comments both made about Pensacola Street and the history there, but also the email we received from Altamese Barnes, focusing on our local history is also significant. I'm really glad that we now have Robert and Trudell Perkins Way. I think I pronounced that correctly. I will get that committed to memory. We have a lot of history to recognize, and we're doing that a lot throughout our community. So I think focusing on the local history is good. For this one particular street, and this goes to the question of looking for other options, it is one section of Pensacola that was kind of separated from the rest of Pensacola. So we are not renaming the entire Pensacola streets. We will retain that name for a significant portion that leads into FSU campus. So I do recognize the importance of the history. I'm not sure where the gentleman who made that comment was, but I think that was a fair point, but we are preserving part of it. Significantly, and we saw this come up in the Railroad Square renaming and some questions about that. We recently redid our policy. There are always questions about the financial impact on businesses and residents. And one of the things we weighed when we discussed Spring Hill years ago was the substantial impact, the number of residents or businesses that might be impacted by that address change. It's not the only reason to think about which road we should name if we choose to do that, but it is something that resonates with me, and I think the significance of having a stretch downtown near roads that are named for other presidents does resonate, and I think could be something significant that is seen by many members of our community, including the young folks. So if we were going to move in this direction, I am comfortable with renaming that section. For the motion, I'm not sure what other options are not on our list already. We looked, if I remember correctly, Mr. County Administrator, at an even more extensive list of names or street options in 2018, or we really talked through a lot of different options, Spring Hill among them, and we had kind of distilled it to potentially Pensacola Street at that time. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you. So in regards to the motion on the table, I think I would have to understand better what the parameters are for staff to go back out and look at other streets to name. We haven't given much more direction than what we have already had in the past, and we've seen those options come forward, and we're still kind of in the same place. So I'm looking for a little bit more, Commissioner Proctor, Commissioner Maddox, by way of direction. Again, I would be comfortable with this section for the reasons that I mentioned, and I hope that it is, in the long term, a way to bring our community together to recognize the significance of this country being more open to people that don't look the same as most of our presidents in the past. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Dozier. I've got Commissioner Jackson, Commissioner Cummings, and then Commissioner Maddox.
I was going to go on point, Commissioner Dozier. Actually, you wanted clarification on that question, or did you want to just?
Oh, okay.
Forgive me, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Commissioner Dozier.
We could continue with the discussion, Commissioner Maddox. I'm just letting you know, and Commissioner Proctor know, that if there were any additional thoughts about other names that you want, or other roads you want to explore, I think that direction to staff may be helpful, because they have looked at a lot of options for us. And we've discussed them in 2018, and then again, they're in this agenda item, some of them are. So I'm just not sure an open-ended ask of our staff is going to produce anything different. We may be right back here having the same discussion in the future. So that's all I was mentioning. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Dozier. Commissioner Jackson and then Commissioner Cummings.
Yeah, I think at the last time we had this discussion, we talked about not just the legacy of President Obama, but we also talked about being considerate of our constituents and our county residents. The stretch for East Pensacola Street has how many registered addresses, Mr. Administrator?
Mr. Chairman, 10.
Okay. And the other two strips of road are in the dozens, maybe even hundreds?
That's correct.
That may have addresses along those two stretches. I think that it's important that we honor leaders, not just nationally, but locally. I can't help but remember I got a email from Altamise Barnes on this particular subject, and I respect her a lot, a great deal. For years, she has donated her life to educating young children in Leon County about Black history and how it occurred here locally, and in addition to that, national history. And her ideas were to recognize people that have had a direct impact on Leon County, that have been civil rights leaders here in Leon County. I couldn't help but consider that as we're sitting here considering President Obama Drive. But I think it's very imperative that if we send this back to staff, that we talk about the sheer impact on county taxpayers when we move it from Pensacola Street, which was 10 addresses. Is that right, Mr. Administrator? To literally dozens and hundreds. I don't think it should place an unfair burden on folks that live on a street and they have lived there for 50 years and suddenly all of their world changes. I can't help but think of elderly people having to go out and renew their license and renew their addresses, collecting the Social Security benefits. It would just be extremely burdensome on those folks. It's a consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. I've got Commissioner Cummings, Commissioner Maddox, and then Commissioner Welch. I want to make sure you had an opportunity for comments later on if you wanted to, sir. Commissioner Cummings.
Yes, sir, I would like to comment.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Needless to say, very ambivalent about this particular item. I appreciate the county staff for the analysis, and apparently this began back in 2018, and we're now in 2021. So I know it wasn't an easy task. So I appreciate all the information that they provided. However, for me, and we say it a lot in the Black community, it just doesn't pass the smell test for me. And this is a problem. I also received the email from Altonese Barnes, who is also a friend of mine. And she pointed out how this short route would go past the Smoky Hollow Memorial. It would go past the Raleigh House Museum, which is okay. But what is the significance of that for President Barack Obama? And she pointed out how perhaps it might be more appropriate if we wanted to look at renaming a segment of Pensacola after some of those individuals who actually lived in that Smoky Hollow community and who were actually business owners and contributed to the community. And why not John G. Riley, who we honor, with the Riley House. My thought is back in 2018 when this was raised with the county commission, that this commission wanted to name a street to honor our president. He's not president of the Black community, but he was president of the United States, twice elected. And so it doesn't pass the smell test to me, with all due respect, because that little segment of Pensacola, I just don't think is commiserate with the fact that he was actually our national president. He wasn't president of Black people or blue people or brown people. He was president of all citizens of the United States. And so I would be willing to table this. I understand Commissioner Dozier's concern that staff has already studied this. If we give them more direction to study it some more, what else can they come back with? But I want us as a county, as Leon County, if we are going to do something to honor President Barack Obama, I want it to be an honor and not just not just an exercise in futility, not to diminish the work that staff has done, but I'm just saying overall, we as a county, if we're going to do this, let's let it be significant, something that, that we are proud of. And the young man spoke about the impact Pensacola Street. He gave his reasons for not renaming it, but mine is not so much about who he is or where the street is, but what message do we, want to send? Do we want to invite President Obama to come to Tallahassee and show him, look, this is what we named and your honor. We really feel great that you were the president of the United States and we take him 2 minutes down the street. So I feel like Commissioner Proctor, that Spring Hill Road would be ideal. It's a major, it will be a major artery coming from the airport, part of the new gateway coming into Tallahassee. I know staff have looked at that particular artery, but I think something of that nature is what I would support, which would be commiserate with the statue of President Barack Obama. And I just don't believe what we have here is.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thank you.
I've got Commissioner Dozier, and then I'll wrap it up.
Mr. Chair, I think you had Commissioner Welch. I believe Commissioner Welch was in queue.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry, Commissioner Welch. You're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am going to vote no on this agenda item. I have a couple of problems with it. I think some of the obvious problems have already been stated. The location, the sort of lack of recognition of other local, especially if we're talking about politicians. I think that that stretch of road in particular, I think you would be much more appropriate to name that after Commissioner Proctor. Excuse me. Or Alchemist Barnes, or John G. Riley, or Bill Montford, or Al Lawson, or someone who has had a significant impact on Leon County. I don't know if President Obama has ever stepped foot on the block. But that is not my biggest problem. My biggest problem with this agenda item is not the policy aspect of it, in which I don't think it's been really properly vetted. It's kind of just an arbitrary thing. I don't think it's gone through the same process as Robert and Trudy Perkins renaming went through. But my issue with it is the partisan political nature of it. I voted for President Obama. I supported President Obama. I think he's a fine president. But my concern is what happens next week when someone asks us to rename West Pensacola Street after Donald Trump. I would vote no on that too. I would vote no on renaming the street after George Bush or Bill Clinton. I think that our national politics has gotten so riven with distasteful tribal partisanship. And whether we like it or not, President Obama is very much still a part of that zeitgeist. He is very much a part of the political culture that divides our country today. We are all elected as nonpartisans. There's no R or D next to our names when we run for office. Naming a road after President Obama does not help me build a park, does not help me fix a pothole, it does not help me lower the crime rate, it does not help me create jobs in our community. And so, for that reason, I just can't get to a point where I think this is a good public policy decision. I feel like we are not serving our constituents by doing this at this time. Maybe 20 years from now, maybe 30 years from now, maybe at a future date, this would be an appropriate thing to do. But I represent a district that is almost perfectly split, 50% Republican, 50% Democrat, almost perfectly. And so for me, this agenda item is going to offend half of my constituents one way or the other. And then what are you going to do when you get a proposal to do the same thing for Donald Trump? So for those reasons, I can't support a street naming at this point in time. But if we as a body continue to pursue this, I would encourage us to create an objective process for doing that, as opposed to a sort of arbitrary, subjective. I think any street renaming should go through the same process as anybody else. Same as Robert and Trudy Perkins. I think there should be a more substantial, objective process to it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Welch, Commissioner Welch. Now I've got Commissioner Dozier. Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to follow up quickly and say this, that my comments about why President Obama and not others is because I kind of went through that same tug of war about naming after every president, or what, why this one and not some of the others. So I am concerned about the partisan implications. My comments that I made before stand, and I would be willing, to consider options. The financial impact, others are critical. But Commissioner Cummings, you prompted me to get in the queue because I realized I probably didn't double down on my feeling about this stretch of Pensacola, and that recognizing our local history is very critical. I mean, that's why I wanted to mention the renaming we just did today and Ms. Barnes' email to us. The more we can lift up our local history. We've heard about Oxbottom just today. We need to be reminded of our local history. And so I would welcome the opportunity, and again, that caveat that this stretch of Pensacola is kind of separated from the rest of Pensacola, so we wouldn't be renaming the entire street. We preserve that name. I would welcome the opportunity to look at other names for this stretch of Pensacola. I think it does lend itself, because there's few addresses, it has little financial impact, to be a place where we recognize some of our local history. So I just wanted to make sure that I'm on record absolutely supporting your feelings about this particular area. And I think it is different to consider a local leader, someone who's significant to our community, than it is a national leader. I think that's just a different conversation, whatever road we're talking about. So I appreciate your comments, ma'am, and just wanted to reiterate that point. If we don't focus on Pensacola, I hope we come back and hear from folks from the Riley House and Smoky Hollow and others and our downtown folks about other options for that road. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Dozier. And with that, I think that's the end of the speaker queue. I'm planning to support the motion on the floor as well. The email that I got from Ms. Altemis Barnes was surprising, as well as the emails from other folks. So this motion, if it should pass, I think gives me and I think some other commissioners a chance to have more conversations with people in the community and figure out what is the best approach. So I'm going to support the motion. All those in favor of Vice Chair Proctor's motion, which has been seconded by Commissioner Maddox, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so I have a nay for Commissioner Welch. Vice Chair Proctor, that is a yes on your part, sir? I don't want to assume.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so thank you, sir. The motion passes 6-1 with Commissioner Welch. Oh, you did? I'm sorry. The motion passes 5-2 with Commissioners Dozier and Commissioner Welch in dissent. Thank you. Commissioner Dozier, my apologies. Mr. County Administrator, would you please introduce the next item?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, as requested by the board, this item provides an overview of the Survive and Thrive Advocacy Center's human trafficking business training and certification proposal, and it recommends also amending our purchasing policy to require county vendors to attest that they do not utilize human trafficking labor in compliance with Section 786.06 Florida statutes. The proposal also includes a funding request, which is not recommended for the reasons articulated in this item. Commissioners, we have 4 speakers on this item.
Thank you, Mr. County Administrator. Would you please introduce the first speaker?
The first speaker is Robin Hassler Thompson.
Ms. Hassler Thompson, thank you for coming, ma'am. Would you please state your name and address for the record? You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, commissioners and staff. It's really an honor to be with you today. I'm the executive director of STAC, the Survive and Thrive Advocacy Center. Worked on this issue for almost 18 years now. And also I want to say it's been an honor to have trained county staff when you all brought this issue before your own employees to be trained and to be able to recognize and respond to human trafficking in our community. Also here with me is Michael Wynn. He's the Executive VP and Chief Digital Officer for RB Oppenheim & Associates. He's here to answer questions if you have any on the actual proposal. Our organization was founded in 2015 really to look at this issue of human trafficking in our local area. You might know that we have sex and labor trafficking happening right here, not just in big cities. And it's really important to note that we've had the opportunity over the last several years, since 2015, to assist over 50 victims of sex and labor trafficking in our community. These victims span various ages, immigration statuses, male, female, young, old, sex trafficking, labor trafficking, and also represent the kinds of trafficking we see here in many of these sectors: agriculture, construction, hospitality, housekeeping, janitorial, textile, apparel, manufacturing, restaurants, spas, domestic work, other industries. And in fact, I've just trained at Capital City Bank, and I will tell you that they have trained all of their front-facing, public-facing staff because trafficking is also present in the banking industry. We're here to give you this backdrop and context to tell you that it's very important that we look to our business community and make sure that the people in the business community, who are really the backbone, can do the number one thing, which every expert has said you need to do to end human trafficking, and that is to inform and make sure everybody knows how to respond to this issue. In fact, as evidence of this, we've already started a small working group that includes members of LCSO, Tallahassee Police Department, the Tallahassee Chamber, Big Bend Minority Chamber, Whole Child Leon, UPHS. Many businesses and others are very supportive of this initiative. We know that what's on the internet right now from the Department of Business and Professional Reg is inconsistent with the quality and the accessibility that's needed for our community. It's also limited to only hotels and only 2 kinds of staffers in those hotels. Yesterday, the Advocacy Committee of the Tallahassee Chamber met, and they came out overwhelmingly to give us a real support for this initiative. I want to conclude with comments from Heidi Otway, who is the former president of the Tallahassee Chamber. She said, "I believe businesses can be front and center along with law enforcement and our elected officials to stop this type of human exploitation. We want to do our part and believe business training is a worthy investment and an effective way to help Leon County achieve a significant reduction in this crime. Please approve this funding for this training to raise awareness and empower more businesses in our community to get involved and stop human trafficking in Leon County."
Ms. Hassler-Thompson, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Your time has expired, ma'am. Perfect timing.
I actually had 15 more seconds, but I will yield. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Mr. County Administrator, would you please introduce the next item?
The next speaker, Rebecca Lutz.
Ms. Lutz, thank you very much for coming here. Appreciate it. Would you please state your name and address for the record? You have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is Rebecca Lutz. I live at 2980 Shamrock Street North. I'm speaking to you today in my capacity as a member of the Survive and Thrive Advocacy Board, but also as a communications professional who has lived and worked in Tallahassee for 16 years. For most of that time, I was an editor at the Tallahassee Democrat. I left the Democrat as managing editor in 2015, and since then I've been working predominantly with nonprofits in our community to assist with their communications needs. I want to thank you again for your time and for your careful consideration of STAC's proposal. The thing that I would like to emphasize to you today is this proposal by STAC, while primarily focusing on training and certification, is so much more than that. It's a bold, active, and broad-based campaign to truly make preventing human trafficking in our county a priority and to truly empower our business owners and residents to not only understand what human trafficking is, but to know what to do when they see it, to know who to call, to know what action to take. It is one thing to offer information about human trafficking on a website, but as a communications professional, I can tell you that no one will go to that website to access the training unless you, number one, make it personally relevant to them. So how does this affect me, my family, my business, and my community? And 2, unless we have a concerted effort to take the message to people where they are and to make it easy for them to take action and get involved. And that is exactly what this proposal is designed to do. I want to call your attention to 2 things that should be emphasized as you make your decision regarding STAC's proposal. And these are the things that I look for when evaluating any type of communications or proposal such as this. As number 1, what are the measurable goals? And number 2, what is the human impact? Are there measurable goals in place to ensure that we're going to accomplish what we set out to accomplish? And what value or benefit will we bring to the community? And in this case, to trafficking victims, survivors, and those who are vulnerable to trafficking in our community. I want to underscore that STAC's proposal comes with these considerations and accountability clearly outlined. At the end of this campaign, we will have trained at least 1,000 individuals across 200 businesses within our community, and we will have reached thousands of others with human trafficking awareness. The training that STAC has provided for years now in our region
focuses on not just educating people about what human trafficking is, but who to call. How do you speak to a potential victim? How do you take action to ensure that you're not placing that potential victim in further danger? As I've been involved with STAC now for 3 years, I can tell you that human trafficking is complicated, nuanced, and insidious. The only way to truly understand it is to receive relevant and comprehensive training provided by an expert in the field. Each person who attends this training will be a potential advocate and someone who can take action. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Letts. Mr. County Administrator, would you please introduce the next speaker?
The next speaker is Kelly Oddie.
Ms. Oddie, thank you very much for coming. Would you please state your name and address for the record? You have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Kelly Oddie. I live at 1075 Alameda Drive. I'm also the Executive Director of the Oasis Center for Women and Girls, and it's my honor to serve as the treasurer for the Survive and Thrive Advocacy Center, which I've been involved with since it was founded. And Robin is a dynamo, by the way. If you don't know her track record, you can take it back to 30 years of doing life-changing work. So I'm honored to support her. I really want to ask you to please consider the funding in a positive way. And the reasons why, what I want to talk to you about is what I've seen. When I was at the Pay Center for Girls, we had a lot of girls that were either being trafficked or being lured into trafficking. And there was very little intervention ability because business owners missed the opportunities to help them. And the ways that where we saw the girls and their traffickers were in places like convenience stores, grocery stores, gas stations, fast food places, hotels. And if those employees had been trained to understand what it was that they were seeing, I believe that they would have been able to intervene with the girls. Yesterday, I know this sounds really bizarre, but last night at 9 o'clock, I got a phone call from a woman through Oasis who had just been thrown out of her house because her roommate aunt told her that if she did not have sex with him and all of his friends, that she wasn't allowed to live there. That is trafficking. And when she went to the landlord to complain, the landlord said there was nothing they could do. If the landlord had received STAC's training, they would have recognized that she was being trafficked and they would have been able to call the police. About a month ago, and some of you know this, that I got involved with a woman who was experiencing homelessness on I-10 and Monroe Street. It was 2 women. One woman was living behind a hotel. The other woman was living under the underpass. They were being stalked by traffickers in the parking lots who were actually going through the parking lots and looking for vulnerable women in order to be able to try and lure them into trafficking. And the reason this woman actually ended up getting help is because there was a brand new employee in the hotel that wasn't 100% sure what was going on, but knew it wasn't okay. And so she allowed her to come in and use the phone to call someone. And she just happened to call me. So these things are happening on a really active basis every single day. And I do believe that sometimes all it is the awareness of one person who recognizes that something's not okay and knows who to call or what to say or how to say it. So I think it's a little bit of money for a lot of impact. We have to remember that women have been disproportionately affected by COVID. There are more women on the streets being trafficked, being lured into trafficking, and we have ability to help them. This is a very small amount of money for a potentially big impact, and I believe this is government's role. If not you, then who? Who's going to do it? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Oddie. Mr. County Administrator, is that our last speaker?
The final speaker, Justin Barfield.
Okay. Mr. Barfield, thank you very much for being here, sir. Would you please state your name and address for the record? You have 3 minutes.
Justin Barfield, 2883 North Hannon Hill Drive, 32309. Hey, way to go, team Leon County. Thank you for your hard work today, earlier with the city, with that workshop, trying to figure out how to better serve our sheltered and unsheltered neighbors. So as a representative of CCYS, Capital City Youth Services, I just want to say thank you for that. Also want to just speak as much as I can in a short amount of time about the impact that I've witnessed firsthand from Survive and Thrive Advocacy Center, particularly Robin and Graciela. I've been able to participate in many of those online conferences and trainings through Shared Grace Network and all sorts of different kind of grassroots connections. So as a member of the Human Service industry, but also as a father, I'm just really excited that people like this are in our community. We are shifting our services as CCYS, as the agency that operates Treehouse, to focus and develop specialized services to at-risk youth, children and teens who are at risk or have confirmed trafficking experience. So it's very special work, close to the heart of our agency, but again, also as a dad. And I would encourage the commission to really consider option 2. To me, as a development director, money equals people, and people are doing this work. So I don't know the ins and outs of how they plan on spending that money, but I do want to gracefully slide that your way. Please support option 2. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Barfield. Mr. County Administrator, is that the final speaker?
It is.
Great, thank you very much. Commissioners, just real quickly, I'll comment on this. Months ago, Robin Hassler Thompson and I had a conversation about human trafficking in Leon County. And we had a discussion about, well, what would it really take for us to make real progress? She had worked very closely with members of STAC and with some other folks in the community and came back with this proposal. And when you read the agenda item, you probably got the same impression that I got, which is that the Florida legislature has made some progress on passing some statutes that require hoteliers and their staff to undergo training. And some of that training is available for free on various websites. I read that agenda, and I thought, well, maybe the training that's out there already is sufficient. Why spend money here locally in Leon County if there's sufficient training elsewhere? That's the impression I got after reading the agenda item, and I want to thank county staff for drafting and developing that agenda item. The more I looked at the training that's currently available on the web, and the more I spoke with Robin and law enforcement and members of the business community, the more I realized that the training that's out there right now is not sufficient. We have the ability right now to really do some good, to fund a program that will make some real improvements on a very serious problem here in Florida. Florida is the third most human trafficked state in the union. We have the ability to make some real progress here in Leon County on this. And I was talking about it with the county administrator. One thing I wanted to try to propose, and I think this is viable, is basically having a motion that would fund the program for the 12 months, basically option 2, but have that funding come from budget contingency, which I think is viable for us, with the understanding that as we start to develop our budget for the next fiscal year, we then do an assessment of the expenditure for this, an assessment of the program, of the training and certifications, find out how much that outreach is being effective, and then make an assessment on what we want to do for following years. Also, speaking with the city and other partners that can help us with funding going forward. I think with the level of enthusiasm we've seen from the Tallahassee Chamber and other folks from throughout the community, I think there's a tremendous amount of support for this type of initiative. The more I look at this, the more I've spoken with people in the community, the more I realize that the existing training on the web that's free is not sufficient for us. This is in the big picture. This is not a lot of money, but yet it has the ability for us to do some real good and help improve people's lives. So with that, I hope that the board might consider having an option for a motion for option 2. Thank you very much. Commissioner Dozier and then Commissioner Cummings in the queue.
Can I get in the queue, Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Welch, I'll put you after Commissioner Cummings.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I will do what Commissioner Maddox always likes us to do and make a motion right from the top for option 2. Yes, I know. If you didn't hear him, it's good policy. So my motion for option 2, and pause for a second.
I'll second that.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so wait for that. All right, I first and foremost want to thank you, Mr. Chair, for bringing this item to us, and Robin Hassler Thompson for your incredible work for so long on this important issue. and for all of you who spoke up today and all of the emails we got on this issue. I think one of the things that stood out to me, and this is no criticism for our staff or anything like that, but there was a statement in the item that from OEV, there's been no demand for this type of training. I think what the discussion at the Business Advocacy Committee of the Chamber yesterday really highlighted is once someone like Robin goes in and represents and really explains the broad nature of human trafficking, that it's not just sex workers, it's not just hotels that are impacted, and what the benefit of training can be for our community in protecting lives and pulling people out of these dangerous situations. We then get a whole host of emails. The incoming president of the chamber, the chair rather, many others. You quoted Heidi. I think that was very significant. And so you said this to me when we talked last week, Rob, we don't know what we don't know. And I think that is the point about lifting this issue up and having a local training program. Rebecca, you mentioned this, and locals training locals was in my notes. I mean, hearing from each other, hearing that real experience, hearing what's happening at CCYS or at PACE or OASIS is really significant. So I think developing a program with the buy-in that we have from our local community can really make a difference. I also share your concerns, Mr. Chair, about the limited scope of the state legislation and the training programs that are currently offered through DPBR. They're meeting that requirement, but it's not as robust as we would like to see. And I was playing with this a little bit, but we can't necessarily preempt the state. We're always talking about preemption. But we could be a model for what a robust human trafficking training program looks like and model that for other counties. And this gets to what, Mr. County Administrator, you absolutely love and celebrate all the time, Leon leading and demonstrating this for other counties. So I hope others pick this up as well. So I think we actually have the easy part of, hopefully, I am hopeful that we will approve the funding and move forward. I absolutely think we should look at it as discretionary funding. It doesn't fit in CHSP category in the next budget cycle. And if the city can help support at that point, that would be fantastic. But this is to establish the program. Last thought is we have football coming back after a year that's gone. We have FAMU in a new conference. That is not the only time that we see human trafficking, of course. You've just spoken to this very clearly, and Kelly, I appreciate that. But it is the right time to start now. I don't want to wait. I think this is the moment. So thank you all, and I really hope that we can get behind this initiative and lead the state in creating a local training program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Dozier. Commissioner Cummings, and then Commissioner Welch, and then Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Cummings.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is there a motion? I didn't quite understand. Is there a motion on the floor to accept option 2?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Commissioner
Great.
Dozier made it.
Great. I support option 2 as well. I want to thank county staff for the analysis of this particular item, and I want to thank Ms. Robin Thompson also for a presentation. When I read this item, what impressed me about it was, even though there are services out there, and I think the chairperson mentioned that in his analysis they're not adequate as far as training the business community. But what impressed me about this proposal is the outreach portion of it. This is training here that's being proposed, targeting hundreds of businesses and their employees, but it's specialized outreach, whereas we have these other programs that are there for training, but you're on your own as far as whether or not you engage those particular services. So I believe this program will raise awareness. I think would be a great intervention and prevention training for those businesses. And I'm excited about the final analysis after analyzing it for a year to see what we have done to penetrate this horrible human trafficking that's occurring right here under our noses. I don't think we recognize the extent that it's going on right here. It's a complicated network. And I believe a couple of months ago on the front of the Tallahassee Democrat, where it indicated that 150 to 170 people were arrested as part of that network. I think it demonstrates just how serious this is for our women, for our children. So I certainly support option 2, looking forward to seeing the results, and I know they will be positive.
Great. Thank you very much, Commissioner Cummings. I've got Commissioner Welch and then Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Welch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am also going to support the motion. When I spoke to Robin, I was reticent about creating a training program that is voluntary for the business community. You know, I know our businesses, our small businesses are overwhelmed with tasks, and another training may not necessarily be something they were looking forward to. I like the idea of it. But, I received an email, as many of you have, or received several emails, but one especially from the incoming chamber president, fully in support of this. So to me, that's a synergy that we can't pass up. We've got an opportunity where we have the business community on board to take the voluntary training. If we can create a really innovative and phenomenal training, you have a synergy that will save lives. If we can train people in our community, create a robust training program, kind of a public-private partnership in which we get our business community to then take that training in a town like Tallahassee, where we know we have problems with this. We've got football season coming up, as has been mentioned. We have a migrant labor force in the counties that surround us. I just think it's a synergy that we can't pass up relative to the cost. And I will be fully supporting Commissioner Dozier's motion. And I want to thank our business community for our chamber for stepping up and saying, you know what, we want this. This is a training that we want to give our people, because I really do think that this is just a really insidious problem in our communities these days, especially with social media and the small world that we live in. And I really think for the bang for the buck here is going to be tremendous. So I'll support the motion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Welch. Commissioner Jackson.
Yeah, Mr. Administrator, would we be the sole funding source for the Survive and Thrive?
My understanding is the way the motion is poised right now.
So although the business community is super excited and the chamber is super excited, they would not be willing to contribute to defray the costs.
Understanding.
Thank you.
Commissioner Maddox.
To piggyback off of what Commissioner Jackson said, nor will the city, correct?
At this point, you're right.
Thank you, Commissioner Maddox. Thank you, Mr. County Administrator. Seeing as there are no, Vice Chair Proctor, do you have any comments, sir?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, we'll move on to the vote. All those in favor of the motion as stated for option 2, made by Commissioner Dozier, seconded by myself, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so just to be clear, just clarify, Commissioner Welch and Vice Chair Proctor, you voted in the affirmative, correct?
Yes.
Now, I voted in the direction of Commissioner Maddox and Jackson, as I understood them as best I could discern.
They voted, they dissented, so the motion passes 4-3 with Vice Chair Proctor, Commissioner Maddox, and Commissioner Jackson in dissent.
Mr. Chair, am I?
Yes, yes, Commissioner Maddox.
My vote in dissent was based off of the fact of I believe that if we're going to do this as a community, the city should contribute as well. And I would have liked for us to have extended the city that opportunity to do so, and then come back to see if we could maybe get a match on it. But we passed here. I think moving forward next year, though, I believe that if you're going to reach out to us, I think reach out to both of us and maybe half it. Because this is something that's going to help every business in our community, not just the businesses in the county, but the businesses in the city too. And so I would have liked for us to move in that direction to ask the city to contribute along with us, split the cost, and then come back next year and look and see if we can maybe even make a multi-year commitment to doing it with some report coming back as to because Commissioner Dozier I like the policy of the motion at the front. Commissioner Dozier likes processes and matrices. So with some information coming back with some matrices to see how successful we were with this funding and how many people were served. And so my intention is that if we talk about this during budget workshop is that we do just that we reach out to the city, have it, build some matrices around what we call success when it comes to building this kind of program. So that's why my vote was what it was. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Maddox. I've gotten a queue. I've got Commissioner Dozier, Commissioner Cummings. Is that correct? And Commissioner, okay. Okay, but has anyone re-entered the queue?
I voted again.
No, okay, so yes, so the motion passes 4-3 with Vice Chair Proctor, Commissioner Maddox, and Commissioner Jackson in dissent. All right. Okay. So Commissioner Dozier, do you have a comment, a quick one, please?
Just very quickly, coming off what Commissioner Maddox said, I think it is a significant point that we would love for others to contribute funding in the future. This is a timing issue for me. If we were talking about this in March, maybe we would have time to engage others to contribute funding right now. We're sitting at the last meeting before a break and before football season. That is actually why I mentioned that, because this is a real-time issue that's happening with calls last night to Oasis. And I don't think we can wait a year. So I just wanted to recognize that I do agree with you. I really hope that we do have other funding partners, particularly the city, going forward, and I look forward to that discussion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Dozier. Commissioner Cummings, do you have any other comments, ma'am?
Yes, I just for clarification, I believe in the analysis that the program is requesting funding from the city as well. I believe the whole funding was, I was trying to find it, I thought it was in my notes. Is that everybody else's understanding that the city is also being asked to fund part of the program as well? No, I'm getting confused.
I asked the administrator for clarification on that point. He said
it is
no.
not, okay.
Well, I do know that with Mayor Daley's comment from the workshop that we were in this morning, that it seemed that there was some enthusiasm. I don't want to speak for the mayor or anyone of the city commissioners, but it did seem like there was some enthusiasm in the other body about this.
So maybe that's where I got that from. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from anyone? Yeah,
Point of information, Mr. Chairman.
Let me have Commissioner Jackson speak, and then you, Vice Chair Proctor. Mr. Jackson.
Yeah, much like Commissioner Maddox, I don't want to downplay the work that's being done. In fact, in the public education world, I serve a school population that 1 out of every 4 kids is Hispanic. And in fact, as recently as May of this year, we sat through a DOE audit where there was a student that was being trafficked that was presented to us as a 13-year-old 8th grader, and it ended up being an 18-year-old young lady who had been in the school system and bounced around anytime someone got close to figuring it out, they would go to another school. And I know that Ms. Adi and her experiences as well has probably come across the same thing. So I do not want to downplay the work and the importance of what you do here. And I'm in those battle lines every single day. I would certainly hope that in the future we could get some more partners on board to continue to make this a regular and annual funding thing for our business community here in Tallahassee and Leon County.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Vice Chair Proctor, sir. Any final comments?
Thank you. I think that Commissioner Cummings raises an issue which is sort of fundamental to my thoughts, and that is the participatory role. And has the city been asked? Of course, this issue of morally rightness and righteousness and our ability to take a position is not contingent on the city or anyone else's. Certainly not. And I do not want anyone to believe that I'm insensitive to human trafficking, because I consider myself a descendant of trafficking, wherein my family have been objects whether sexual, I don't know. But as a descendant of human trafficking, I'm damn sensitive to that. But I think that as a fiscal matter and a policy consideration, universally, we can't be a nation half divided, half county, community, half free and half slave. We can't be half or and put money up and then half don't care. That's the consideration and the issue here. It's the halfness of the double consciousness of some are not on board, and I think all should be. And I think that we take a posture of holding that flag up that Commissioner Maddox talked about, and all he's saying is this is so universally important that we need this city to join this county to be against this issue called trafficking, of which we are descendants of. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Vice Chair Proctor. Really appreciate it. All right, before we move on to the next item, does anybody feel more electricity in the room at all? The reason why is because we have the neighbor of the year in the room who just joined us now. So if you would mind, Ms. Lethea Edwards, just allow us to give you a big hand for winning the neighbor of the year. Just want to give you a chance to embarrass you, that's all. But Ms. Edwards, you are an inspiration to all of us. Thank you for everything that you do, not just for your neighborhood, but for the entire community. We are very grateful for everything that you do. I don't know how you do it, working 24/7, but you manage, and we're very grateful to you. Thank you. All right. Well, listen, we have we'd like to take a break in probably about 9 or 10 minutes. And so we do have some agenda items here that we might be able to get through so that we can get through them. But I don't think the next item, number 34, is something that we can finish within the short time that we have. I do think perhaps that maybe 35 and 36, perhaps even 43, might be something we can start to work through. So would there be a motion perhaps to bring number 34 back to the end of general business? All right. Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Dozier.
Do we have comments on 34? We have just one? I just wonder if that might be a faster item than you anticipate, but if there was going to be a lot of discussion, we can move forward. I don't know if we need to postpone it. And we have folks in the audience who are here for information, so that's why I mentioned it.
My guess is that, and who's to say, but my guess is that 34 probably will last longer than the 9 minutes we've got. That's my guess. That's my guess. Mr. Chair, I think motion might die for lack of I would second that, actually. If we move 34 to the end. Yes. 34? All right. County staff is suggesting that number 34 is actually pretty straightforward. So is maybe Commissioner Dozier?
I rescind my motion. But before we take up 34, Madam Attorney.
We can, of course, now I'm going to work to sabotage this and draw out the debate on number 34 just to prove myself right. Which is totally
Before you take it up, Mr. Chair, Madam Attorney, do I have a conflict on item number 34 with Boys and Girls Club being a CHSP funded organization?
This is strictly just authorization to contract with FSU. So no, I do not believe you have a conflict. If you believe that there's an appearance of a conflict, however, you may wish to recuse under 286.
Due to the opinion of my county attorney and state law saying if you do not have a conflict that you need to vote unless there's appearance, I don't think the appearance is strong enough for me not to vote. So I will be taking a vote here based off of your opinion. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Commissioner Maddox. Okay, Mr. County Administrator, would you please introduce the next item, number 34?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, yes, with us, never be confused by the number of pages we have written here. It is pretty straightforward.
A lot of words.
Commissioners, this item seeks your consideration to continue to engage with FSU, the Askew School, in the development of uniform outcome measures for the CHSP process for the upcoming 2-year funding cycle, 23 and 24. Should the board approve the funding would be split equally between the city and the county. We do have one speaker on this item, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. County Administrator. Would you please introduce the first, or introduce the speaker?
Amber Tynan.
grief.
Ms. Tynan, thank you so much. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Amber Tynan, 2477 Tim Gamble Place. I just wanted to say UPHS is actually in support of this item, no opposition this time, and wanted to give kudos to Shington Lammy, his team, and your administration for working with us to make slight modifications to the agenda item, and we look forward to seeing what is possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tynan. All right, in the speaker's queue, we've got Commissioner Dozier and then Commissioner Cummings. Commissioner Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As the one who normally belabors a lot of CHSP issues, that's why I was kind of smiling there, to have an item come back with full support from UPHS, from our staff, from everyone is fantastic. So I happily make a motion for options 1 and 2, and that is it. Thank you.
All right, motions are made for options 1 and 2 by Commissioner Dozier, very briefly and succinctly, and then seconded by Commissioner Maddox. Commissioner Cummings, you're next on the queue, ma'am.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I certainly support the motion, and I just wanted to say that I think that it would be more meaningful if we had some measurement, some, uniform measurements, and I think this is what the Askew School of Business is. This is part of what will happen if this is approved, and I think that as we try to serve individuals in need in this community, I think those measurement tools will go a long way in determining how best to do it. It'll go a long way in determining how well we are doing it through our human services providers. And then we can also, with those measurement tools, then we can see where the gaps are. We can see how we can better the services to those needed individuals. So, having said that, I certainly support it. Don't want to prolong the time, but I support the measure.
Great. Thank you so much, Commissioner Cummings. Appreciate it. Commissioner Welch, Vice Chair Proctor, any comments, sir?
No, sir.
All right. Seeing there's no other comments, we'll go ahead and move on to the votes. Motion made for option 1 and 2 by Commissioner Dozier, seconded by Commissioner Maddox. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Yes.
Just want to confirm, Commissioner Welch and Vice Chair Proctor, you voted in the affirmative, both of you?
Yes.
Okay. Vice Chair Proctor, is that you, or Vice Chair Proctor, do you vote yes? Is he still on? Vice Chair Proctor, are you with us, sir? All right. The motion carries 6-0 with Vice Chair Proctor out of chambers. I think we are at the point now where we should take a recess. So let's go ahead and we'll reconvene at 6 o'clock sharp. Thank you all very much.